Okay. Good afternoon, Internet. I'm just kind of here to give my thoughts and my opinion, I guess, on CaylyxOS, GrapheneOS, and the PinePhone. And I guess, like, just rant in general. Now, I got the PinePhone, I think like 6, 7 months ago, or like a year ago, and I daily drived it, and I got the Pixel 6 back in October, and I kind of did the same thing, where I daily drive as much as that I can within reason. And then same thing with now I'm daily driving GrapheneOS. My I guess like initial thoughts on like the PinePhone. I think depending what your use case is, it's completely realistic to run it daily. It's just what do you use a phone? What do you use your phone for, and what are you trying to accomplish? I if like you if you look at like what operating system works the best. Personally, me, Mobian has been the most stable, and has been the by far the most clean use. Before that, it was Mobian. Yeah, Mobian with Android. I used Waydroid to run Android apps. Some worked, some didn't. I got Session to work, and a few other ones. Ubuntu Touch is by far like the farthest developed one, and it's literally the worst. It's like the worst one to use. It's just not. There's stuff that just doesn't work. It's clunky. Certain apps don't work, and I hate it. So I switched to I used Arts for a little bit, and I didn't. I mean, I used Arts on my PC, and I like it. I just didn't really care for it on the phone. I liked Mobian better. If you're looking for a phone where you just really want to like call, have more privacy, have better just privacy respecting apps with less functionality, and you just want a phone that works for $200, I think it's great. I think it's a fully capable phone that just does a lot more. I can get calls, I make text. MSS like just doesn't work. I don't know why. I've never got it to work. Video. There is a way you can get video working. I do a lot of. I mean, I can SSH into it. It's a really cool thing. I like that I can just SSH into it and find out, like, I can run programs that I can run on my PC, which is super cool. I mean, I can watch anime from the command line. I can use MVP. I think it's a really good step. It's not there for like every user. It's really, obviously there for like the development part. And that's understandable, and that's stated. But I think if people remove that and they're like, I just want a functional phone that respects my privacy, and I don't want to spend a lot of money, this is a really good option. And I think that's the discussion that most people don't have and they don't point to. That rant over. I might touch on it again in a second, but CaylyxOS, awesome. I've had nothing but a good experience with downloading it. I know people have problems with micro G and like the security implication. I never logged into my Google account, to be honest, to download apps. I used the Aurora store, and I ended up just downloading the apps and using F-Droid as much as possible, where I didn't need to do anything that really identifies me and makes it a little bit more obscured, I guess, like less identifiable information. But I did also separate a lot of stuff in terms of like just sandboxing it myself, I guess. Pretty much everything on F-Droid worked out the gate. Aurora Store is really great. I like it. I never had an issue. If I needed to do something that required me where it didn't work, I just used a progressive web app. It was the best, simplest solution. It just worked for me. I had a good experience. I had a good experience installing it. I think people over dramatize the I have to touch a terminal or a command line to install it. If you can read basic documentation, it's really not that hard. And I understand it may be not hard for me, but I think any average user that has a basic reading skills, we need to remove. I agree that we need to, like, as a community, need to be there and help, but we need to remove the fear. And how you remove the fear is you get people in there and do it. You just get them to do it, and then once they do it, it looks so much like Android. I hand it to people, and they're like, "Wow, that looks like Android. It looks like pure, like it looks normal." And it's crazy. It's crazy how functionally great it is, how easy it is, and it just comes down to your threat model and what you need as a person to really dive into it. It is unfortunate that they only support the Pixel 6. I get why they do it. It makes sense. And I know that Calyx, from a security standpoint, they can be a little bit behind from rolling updates. I understand that's a huge problem. And I've heard good arguments both against and for it. I think any step to privacy and security is the most important part, not as much as like the semantical part. Because originally I never wanted to install I was originally going to install GrapheneOS, and then the community wasn't so great, and I didn't like that I thought it was too extreme for me, and I thought that it was just, I was like, it's like unnecessary, doesn't meet my threat model, and I literally just don't care. I found calyxOS, and I like it. The community is great. The developers are great. I had a ton of questions that they answered for me in the Reddit, so I never had a problem, personally me, but that's, I was lucky. And I have basic reading skills. So like I was like, okay, what can work? What can't work? How do I fix it if it doesn't work? What are the steps that need to be done? That's just like basic, solving skills like you have to use in everyday life. Now, flash forward, I was like, okay, what can I try next? I didn't really care for LineageOS. I think it's overpriced for what you get. It's not really, I don't think there's enough options yet, but I'm glad that PinePhone does exist, and they are pushing the boundaries to make Linux exist in the phone market. If this was even more functioning, I would go even farther. I would probably just run the PinePhone. Just from a hardware perspective, it just lacks a little too much, and software perspective, it just lacks a little too much for me yet. I still daily drive it. I test stuff on it, and I have fun. And I'll probably make more videos on me testing other stuff once I find like stuff to do. I have no idea. But calyxOS, awesome, excellent phone. I think they're great. I think they're a good company. I see why people have certain problems. I've listened to the hated ones' opinion on it. They're more of like, Calyx is great, but lean towards Graphene. Techlore, vice versa. Just from like their perspective. I think, from my opinion, I think both are great options. Just whatever your threat model is the option you should choose. And to be honest, the web installer, fucking awful for Graphene. I'll touch on that in a second. But I had almost like no issue going into Calyx. Like, I could get calls. It looks great. I could send texts. I could do everything that functionally Android is, just better privacy. And that's what I care more about. I think I have pretty good security capabilities in my perspective of, and you're always learning and always educating yourself. But I think to a normal person, it might be a little intimidating. But to get over those boundaries is just having the community have better opening arms. That's how you get people interested and be able to change their opinion. I talk to a lot of people in my day job just naturally, and they have questions about like certain stuff. They're like, "Oh, what do you use? Like, what do you do?" Like, and I explain to them, and I pretty much tell everyone I use Linux on my PC because some games just haven't got to work, and gaming has gotten a million times better since then. And they have questions, and I try to dumb it down like I'm a 5-year-old, like they're 5, and they understand, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Some of it relies just on being able to teach really good quality educational snippets that does like get away from like the big like tech jargon and just dumb it down. And that's like what I do, like with the PinePhone, like, I just dumb it down, or that I'm running Calyx. So, oh, okay, that makes sense. So you run like Google, like you run Android, but there's less spyware on it. Like there's less tracking. There's more privacy. There's more free and open source choice, and that's what I kind of like boil it down to, and it works. That's what works for me. That's what works for my threat model, and that's what works in general. Now back to second rant. Graphene so far has been great. I personally do not like I don't know if you can switch it. I don't like the icons, the default. They're the gray and black. Massively cringe. I absolutely hate how it looks. And that may seem like a first world problem kind of thing. And it kind of is. But user interface fucking matters. It looks gross. And then every other app works out to look good. That's my issue. That's my first issue. My second issue, the web installer was, for some reason, I was having a stroke. I thought it bricked my phone. I was like, all right, what am I doing wrong? And because I use Arch on my main rig, and I don't know if it could have been my fault 100%, but I tried 3 different times of getting the loading installer to just, right when I get down to a certain step, it would just do it would give me a weird error that I don't know what it was. It was like an error overflow, and then I looked up the error, because like that's what you do. You find the error, you look it up, you see the solution, you look in the log somewhere. But I looked up the error and I looked for a solution. I checked like pretty much every form on the planet, couldn't find it, and most of it related to a JavaScript, like pretty much it was like a Stack Overflow question. So it was just a bunch of virgins arguing with each other on how much of a virgin they are. So I ended up switching from Arch to my laptop, which runs Debian-based operating system, and it worked fucking right off rip. I was like, cool, that solved it. I was very annoyed. I wasted 2 hours. I had to like put it back on Android and like take it off and put it back on. Like it was a fucking headache, and I was having like a stroke doing it the entire time. So beyond that part, it's great. I like the sandbox mode. I only did this because I listened to the Hated Ones last two podcasts ago. I listened to the last 2, and they talked about like, oh, it has sandboxing in it now. Google Play Services is like, this is how it works. It can get these apps work better. You don't have to use the Aurora Store. It doesn't use micro G. It honestly is a good experience. I have no issue with it. I think it's very clean. And I forget their browser. I know they were using Chromium, but I forget what they call it. They use that, and I use Bromite right now because that's what they recommend, and I'm going to listen to them. Excellent beyond that, beyond the user interface look. And I mean, I haven't had any issues. I use F-Droid pretty much only, but I was like, screw it. I'm gonna make a fake like Google account and give it some shitty information, blah blah blah. And it's actually really cool to see that sandboxing mode just pops up. And I tested the privacy a little bit and I want to do some more control testing and maybe print the results somewhere and document it. I've had very good experience on both. It just comes down to what do you need, what do you like. Micro G and the Aurora Store worked great enough for me. I try not to do anything really outside progressive web apps if I can. And my threat model has a different layer. I try to obscure most data and do like the to what's good for me. To somebody else, it might be different. So it's that it's kind of like that. Like I think more people there's need to be more content around this kind of stuff. I think it's very good when big creators, they're like, hey, there's another option out there, because more people listen to that. There's really big subs and like creators and people on the internet. It holds, like, people care about authority, man. And because they care so much about authority, this kind of content just gets pushed or shadow banned, and like YouTube isn't in favor of picking something that's opposite to them. I don't know, maybe that's a tinfoil hat, but if you look at like how many subscribers the Hated One has and how good his content is, and Tech Lore and Mental Outlaw, and how much shit their stuff gets blackballed or blacklisted or shadow banned, or they get removed or get strikes against them, that's crazy. Like, I think there would be a lot more people open to being like, hey, I don't have to run, I can run Session, I can run Threema or Signal, and just starting with those little simple steps creates better privacy and a better expectation. And now, I mean, like, I hear more people now, and I will agree because I've heard this before, more people now are like, oh, we know we're being spied on, but they don't do anything about it now. Like, it used to be like, you're crazy, but now it's like, you tell people you use Linux or you use a custom ROM, they still kind of look at you like you're crazy. But they know, like, people's, like, the older middle to boomer Gen Z tradition, they're like, yeah, we know we're being spied on. It went from like, okay, you're crazy, to yeah, we're not being spied on, and then it stops there, and that's crazy to me. And I think that it's a little discouraging for, like, especially like really small creators that want to do this for a living and like make like a really big deal out of it, to like show stuff like this because it's interesting to them, for it to get pushed down and not, like, it's not a fair or a good, it's almost, there's no advantage. And then, like, even though PeerTube and Odyssey exist, we get it, they're just not replacements. People aren't going to flock there. It's very hard to be successful and make money in that industry. That's why I'm a huge fan of, instead of a sponsorship like kind of model, I think like just donating. Like, I'm gonna make a commitment for me to, even if it's a dollar to like a big organization. That's a lot to them, because it puts 1%, one millionth of a percent closer to their goal. And I think that's what's important. If you can afford Netflix that keeps raising their price, not respecting you or your privacy, you only watch probably like 3 fucking shows on there anyways, and you can cut to the cheapest plan or whatever, or like don't order a coffee once a month and just give them $1. That's a lot to these very small open source companies that just want to do better for society on a privacy level, on a security level, on an aspect. Just $1 is huge to that company. And I think that's where I'm like, I push at, because I mean I live in the open source free world where everyone's like, everything's free, open source, just use it. That's so generous of these companies to take their hardware, take their software, take their work, take their time, and just shove it out there and be like, anyone can use it, anyone can download it, anyone can modify it. You don't see that anywhere. But we're willing to pay Apple like 99 cents just for fucking storage, or Netflix $14 just to watch 4 shows and then clap someone's cheeks, or whatever however you want to look at it. So that's what I want to try and find, really good projects, just to give them, even if it's a couple dollars every couple months or 6 months or something. I'm looking to cut some subscriptions and just donate a little, even a little bit of crypto. I'm a huge fan of Monero and some other privacy respecting coins, even Bitcoin, etc. Those things really matter. And that's how you get from the PinePhone, back to this, that's how you get the PinePhone to be successful and have better hardware and want to be better and make better decisions and build an actual company from the ground up. That's how you get CaylyxOS to be able to hire more developers to get better stuff. to get more stuff just that works out the gate. Where you can hand someone it and be like, hey, this works. This is it. That's all you need. You're done. Like same thing with CaylyxOS, GrapheneOS, Librem 5, anything that you could do help to contribute to these projects. You're doing a massive gratitude that I don't think that people understand, that they'll appreciate more than you'll ever know, because it takes their vision, and it's not about the money. It just takes their vision and it makes it happen, and then we can step forward into a better, more realistically privacy respecting space. But I don't know. That's all for my rant. My last video kind of like didn't do well, and it was super cringe, and I don't really care about the numbers, but it sucks seeing that like it not get any views. So if you could hit the like, just in general, or argue in the comments for the YouTube algorithm, I'd much appreciate it. Massively cringe, and I hope you guys have a good rest of the night. Stay safe.